changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And it's and we're thankful and grateful for you guys being on. May the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in His that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect, and protect today's message. Aman. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Amma, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Have I heard about the Dark Ages? Okay, sure. Yes, but we talked about a little bit about whose dark ages, whose dark ages yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about today as we get ready to go into our Shabbat Shalom service. Once again, please forgive me. I'm trying to power up, having a little bit of issues with my back, so playing hurt, but we're gonna make this work. But want to talk today about how do we get out of these dark ages? Because once again, when you speak dark ages, you got to talk about a context. You got to talk about what people are they saying. All right, the dark ages weren't dark ages for everybody, and there, even as you can see behind me, there's some people that would argue that the dark ages weren't even real, at least not as real as what we think that they are, as far as everybody had to be in these precarious situations, right? But there were many different things that you could say were happening during the dark ages, but especially outside of just one group of people, which is usually what we do. So what we talked about, what we ended on yesterday, was really, what the dark ages. Money talk. You said they're talking about black people. Talking about black people for what? What? They're talking about black people as far as the dark ages. No, they're actually talking about, if we're going to do social construct, they're talking about European people and what they were going through in the dark ages. If you're talking about 450 to 1000 AC, or those who want to use the common era ACE, that's what usually people are talking about. Oh, it's when black people ruled over Europe. Somewhat. I mean, if you want to start talking, see, the Carthaginians were over Europe up until a couple hundred years, 400 years maybe at the most. Really, it's when Rome started becoming a world power that Carthage lost power, and then basically a bunch of Carthaginians got killed off or had to get displaced. If you're talking about the Moors come into power to 700s, and then stay in power until 1491. And then after that, that's when they get kicked out, right? But when they're talking about their dark ages, they're talking about a specific dark ages or time of confusion, or age of confusion, if you will, for a specific people, right? Oh, okay. If that's your way of saying hello, whatever your name is, was that IBMINUSL or LBMINSUSL, something, whatever your name is. If that's your way of saying hello, then that's fine. I am here to mop up and clean up a lot of confusion. So do with that what you will. All right. You said, what about King David? What about King David? I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out where we're going, Money Talks. I'm trying to roll with you. You throw out a bunch of different things. King David, if you're talking about King David, that's way before what they consider the Dark Ages. You said one question, when does their Regino, their reign finally end? I'm over in this timeline is tiring. Well, you can be out of that timeline right now. Nobody has to be over anybody. Nobody has to reign over anybody. You can be reigned over or reign over whatever situation you want. You don't have to be signed up to stay in the madness. A lot of people just decide to stay in the madness. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. This might have to be shorter than what it usually, way shorter than what it usually is. I'm back. I'm not feeling it right now. We're gonna get there though. How you doing, Brother Eugene? You said, what about King James? Sure, King James comes after the Dark Ages. King James was black, of course. It's just mother and father, or King James African, mother and father African, or Moorish, mother and father Moorish, whichever one you prefer. Hey, how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Amma. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. You said disrespect your face? I don't even know what that means. You said you're African American? Are you African American? And if you're African American, why are you African American? He was actually an Israelite. There's a possibility he was an Israelite. Sure, I'm an Israelite, so that wouldn't be too confusing for me. When we talk over here, we speak from that context, so that's not a problem for me at all. you know, but once again, what's this African American thing? Oh, I don't know what happened with that. Minister Tamara says that you do. Let me see. Mm. Yeah, it's weird. I'm gonna take away everything and I'm gonna give it back. See what it does. All right, I just gave everything back. I don't know if that helps or not, Minister Tamara. I'm not sure what's going on. You said I'm an African American. No, no, no. Are you an African American? You're not gonna put something on me that I'm a non-citizen national. See, and by the way, we're talking about how do you get out of the dark ages? How you doing, Sister Dawn, and Yashtel, and I'm sorry, Jacob's Land Project. Okay, how you doing? Oh, thank you for the prayer. Yeah, my back is hurting a little bit, but we're gonna make it through. Did the workout today. I barely made it through the workout. For those that were up early with us, it took a lot out of me to make it through that, but we're here. Thank you, Minister Sonia. Appreciate you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Minister Tamara. Hopefully, this stuff will come back to you. But yeah, why is it that you want me to be an African American so bad? Right? Why is it that I must be an African American so bad? Mixed martial artist, whatever. Right? Why is it that I must be an African American? Who told you that I had to be an African American? Who told you what an African American was? Do you even know when it started? Do you know the legal ramifications of being an African American? Do you know why you shouldn't legally, especially when you're in court, you should never be an African American? Not on paper, at least. I definitely don't look like Kofi Kingston, but hey, thank you for the WWE shout out. Right? We're both Ghanaian, so that part is cool. Right? See, the reason why you are so pressed about saying, you said, so what if you weren't born in America? Then what do you identify as? Well, even if you're born in America, you don't have to identify as an American. You know, nobody started doing that to the 1800s, right? See, we got to come out of the dark ages thing. Y'all know nobody was doing that to the 1800s. Oh, thank you, Rodolfo. Appreciate you. How you doing? Right? Like we don't have to be something just because somebody calls us. Right? We don't have to be that just because somebody calls us that. See, how do we get out of the dark ages? Like, how do we get out of this modern dark ages to where you think that you have to be something you're not even called or created to be? And how you doing, Big Brother Thomas? How you doing, Sister Carrie? I know I've missed some names on here. I apologize. I'm not batting 1,000 today. I'm dealing with a little bit of pain, so y'all forgive me. Stop calling yourself black. I haven't said anything about calling myself black, but okay, but I don't mind calling myself black. I just won't be black on paper in Western society. Like I have no problem being Kemetic. I'm part Kemetic. So that means Kemetic, Kimmy, black. I'm part Kush. Like my family, part Kush. Can't help it. Like Kush actually translates into black. If you believe in biblical stuff, Kush comes from Ham. Ham is what? Ham's name means hot or even means dark enough to be able to take on the heat. I know we're doing the Moorish thing. I am Moorish as well, but Moorish is not a religion or one group of people that all thought the same way. It was a way of describing certain people. You said scholars don't use the term dark ages anymore. Once again, I just told you, some people, not all people. So when you say scholars, you'd be like, oh, certain people who believe a certain thing. See, that's cultural. And I have no problem with that. But those scholars who are in that cultural mind frame, they do those things. You said you thought I was talking about law? If I'm talking about law, then I'm a non-citizen national. Some of y'all want to be Moorish on paper, sure, but you got to make sure you got certain things to even get that done. Some of you want to be freedmen on paper, you can get that done, right? But the easiest way is just become a non-citizen national. right? But we got to come out of that. Even as people hear me talk, see, that's part of the reason why we in this thing now is that we're still doing this separation. I know better, you know better, this, that, et cetera, the third. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody coming on. Peace be upon everybody. You said historians. Well, first of all, historians just study his story. I'm a Jelly Kriat. I have my own university that I was blessed to be able to start. I therefore am a teacher at the university and still teach some things. And I don't have to bow down to what you feel has to be done. Like, the best colleges in the world are non-accredited, correct? So if the best colleges in the world are the non-accredited ones, that means that they don't bow down to what other people teach. Therefore, I'm not worried about it. You're like the doctors, et cetera, like professors on the highest level. That just means that they profess what a certain doctrine is. Doctrine is just anything that a group of people lift up. Like there's a lot of people that profess, once again, somebody on here talking about I have to be an African American. And they say that that's the best. A lot of people say that's the best way to call yourself now. No, it's not, because on paper, according to law, African American, colored person, Negro, those type of people, they are considered to be fake people according to law. So you wouldn't want to be those things. But yeah, you keep telling me these things, but you're talking about somebody's culture. I'm coming out of that dark age. See, that dark age says that I'm nothing unless I go by what you say I have to be. I don't have to be that, right? Because you didn't call me to be anything, and they didn't call me to be anything, and they didn't create nothing except for an oppressive system that says that you have to go by what they've doctored up. See, a doctor is just somebody that teaches the doctrine. Somebody that's a doctor is somebody who writes out the doctrine for new generations. A master is somebody who just teaches the doctrine. Somebody who's a bachelor is just somebody of a certain age that has a degree of knowledge. You're talking about a degree of knowledge. I'm talking about being whole, being holy. Well, what kind? Yeah, a person can be property depending on what type of person you are. You're absolutely correct. You said, so who am I? I am I am a man of authority because I'm under authority. I'm a man of Yah. I am a spirit, soul, and body having a holistic experience. You might call that holiness. I am born of Yashter, I am born of Cush, I am born of Kemet, I am born of Shwe, I am born of Cherokee, I am born of Taino, I am born of Omekshi. I am powerful, I am magnificent, and I am above anything that you can put in on this earth as far as from a fleshly perspective, right? And I am authorized, therefore, under the sham of Kofi, or what you might call my name. That's who I am. Eugene, just text me. Text me. I'll get you the information. Right. But that's who I am. See, and once again, somebody wants me to stay in the dark ages and keep believing that I'm something that's not. Do I believe in Jesus Christ? I don't believe in Jesus. I believe in Yahshua. Jesus is half man, half Zeus. So I don't do that. But I do Yahshua. Right. But once again, that's what I'm saying. See, a lot of us is still in a dark age or a dark time or a confused time. And how you doing, Sister Beverly? Everybody, I didn't say hello to Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I apologize. Once again, I'm having even a tough time moving my head and my neck. So I'm trying, but I'm not, I know I'm not catching all these different things. What does it say? This just simply says that not all dark ages, all dark ages aren't real, or at least not considered to be what people were calling them at one point. Yeah, a lot of people going jab and stuff like that, but that's people trying to try your authority. Right. I know what I'm authorized to do. I know who I'm authorized to be. I know who I was authorized to be before these people were born. And it's a lot of people don't like it when you speak to them like that. But when you're coming out, you have to speak to people like that. You have to speak to yourself like that. Like I had to speak to myself. I was going to tap out. Right. I couldn't do it last night. I was going to tap out again for the workout. I was going to tap out again for this. I was going to tap out for the for the for the Shabbat Shalom service. I'm being honest. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do the meeting, the SOC meeting. Like I think I'm once we finish that podcast today, like I need to lay down. I can't. You can probably hear it in my voice. Like I don't have it today. I got it enough for this. I'm be faithful, but I'm just saying, like, ooh. But a lot of people, they're not used to this. Yeah, like a lot of people, they're not used to this. They're not used to somebody that says, I know who I am and I know exactly what I need to be. And you're not going to tell me or have me come outside of that. Um, even if you don't like what I'm saying. Like a lot of people are used to being able to just tell you what they think and not be told no. Right? Like, but I know enough about, and when I say no, I'm talking about being intimate with myself. I know enough about myself. I know enough about my people. I know enough about my responsibility. I know enough about my confidant, who is Yashua, who is Yahava, who is Lavak Hakodash, to where you're not going to tell me about self. And you know, that's how you come out. You say, that's right. Your bad didn't mean to tell. Oh, you're fine. Right? I know about myself, and exactly. So I know about preserving myself. By the way, we use this back. We use this one I'm about to bring up. We've been using this over and over and over again, but allow me to use it one more time. Please forgive me for bringing this up one more again, but we're gonna bring it up one more again, right? To show people. See, if self-preservation has become mandatory in a system in which people don't believe that you should be preserved. Thank you, Jolene. Appreciate you. Right. Uh, Self-preservation has become mandatory in a place to where people don't think you should be preserved. Why is that? Because these people are Darwinistic, right? These people are Darwinistic. They think that it's about the origin of species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for survival or for life, for the struggle for life. That was written by Charles Darwin, M.A., which is false because he never got anything other than the bachelor's. And his family paid for the bachelor's. And these are people that don't mind him being Linnaean. Right? Carl Linnaeus is the person who basically said white is in this category, Native American is in this category, Chinese is, or I'm sorry, he said Chinese, like, but basically Asian is in this category, and then black folk are in this category. You knew it was going to be some BS, sure, so go away. I'm sorry, I don't have the time and the talent for it today. In order for me to not be rude, you might as well just not be here. I don't comprehend how you can say hello or anything. You said that you saw the shirt, which means that your mindset is that I hate white people or I don't like you or what you stand for because of what I wear. So that means you didn't even come here under proper pretenses, right? Like if that's the case, if you don't like the fact of what I'm saying, I'm giving you fact. This is a book that was not written by me. This is written in 1859. This is a book written in 1859. If it's written in 1859, I didn't have nothing to do with it. By the way, you didn't have anything to do with it, which means that we should have a conversation separating ourselves from it. But you can't do that. You're like, see, I saw the shirt. I knew it was going to be some BS. No, that's you giving ad hominem because you have no proper argument. You cannot talk about this correctly. You don't want to talk about this correctly, right? Like we could have a proper conversation about this because neither one of us was born when this was written, right? But it affects us still to this day. But we weren't born when it was written. Yes, Acts 2:38. Yashua did tell us to repent, or Peter told them to repent in Shem or in the name of Yashua. Thank you. Right, and we receive Alavak Hakodash, or what you call the Holy Spirit, right? But this is real talk. Like this is they. Why did they never teach you this in school, and why are people arguing about this? You said they documented a new bird species. They're going to document a new species every day. Question: just because they found a new species of fish in the water, are you saying that means that the fish evolved, or does it just mean that y'all finally found it? Like they said. Now they tell you. See, don't forget, right? King Kong. King Kong was a reaction because they used King Kong. First of all, remember this. See, we can even go to stuff like King Kong. I don't have to work that hard. Y'all are making this more than what it is. That's why I've come out of the dark age of thinking. I'm not all the way out, but I'm a whole lot more way out than a lot of other people are. And I'm old enough to remember they even had a King Kong movie recently, right? I'm old enough to remember recently they had a King Kong movie. But if we go back, because I used to be somebody, I've watched the Godzilla movies progressively throughout history. I've watched the King Kong movies. Remember, they didn't think that gorillas were real. Black people or African people, right? People of the Congo, people of those West Hills, whatever, they were telling people for the longest time they're gorillas, and people kept telling them, no, what you're saying is wrong. No, what you're saying is wrong. There are not anything like that. There's nothing that, stands like that. There's nothing that is that strong. And then when they found it, see, doctrine of discovery. See, when we were telling you it was there, it wasn't real. You'll hear all these people, we didn't even know gorillas were real. No, black people were telling you gorillas were there the whole time. Right? Like they were telling you this the whole time, right? For whatever reason, you didn't want to hear it, but they were telling you this the whole time. Okay. Um, but nevertheless, they said they found gorillas. And then when they found them, what did they do? They were like, ooh, gorillas, they look black people are scary. They made a whole movie about it, about a black gorilla messing with a white woman. Okay, if you believe in evolution, that's fine. I'm telling you what Darwinism has to do with stuff. If you don't want to take, the contextual facts, you don't have to take them. To each their own, right? That's not even my main focus today. I brought that up because people are going to that same space, but I'm not going to argue that. If you want to argue that evolution is right, you can be right. I could really care less about that part of it, but I'm just here to tell you, like it's see what I'm saying? Like, even people are like, you got to do that. Like, this is be the thing. This is what it is. Like, this is what, like, you show them straight up. Like, if I were to tell you, like, people don't want to admit that manifest destiny, doctrine of discovery, Darwinism, lost cause, and what's the other one that I'm forgetting in our 5 piece? There's one I'm forgetting right now. It'll come back to me when I need it. But those things have to do with and the white man's burden. They all came about to do the same thing. Right? If you out, then be out. Peace. Have a great day. So, like, these are the things that you gotta like. I'm not saying anything that's not a lie. Like, matter of fact, if you look up Doctrine Discovery, a book that y'all love, The Jungle Book. Who wrote The Jungle Book? Rudyard Kipling. A lot of you never read the book, so you only know about the movie, which is basically like a chapter or a few paragraphs, even really, but a chapter of one of the books, or of that book, The Jungle Book, which is supposed to be a bunch of stories in there. And the person who wrote it, Rudyard Kipling, he wrote a letter to the leaders of the United States corporation, telling them, make sure that you keep teaching people about what? About manifest destiny. What's dumb? I'm able to speak, so I'm not dumb. You got to get this together, right? See, you call me dumb saying that I can't even speak, not even realizing that I'm speaking a bunch of things that you just might not have ever known. See, I've come out the dark ages of thought. I'm not saying that you got to believe everything. I'm saying I'm giving you a different cultural context. In the culture that you want to uphold, they say that stuff does not matter. In the culture that I uphold, I say that it all matters. You said, what's my opinion on black crime? We don't believe on giving opinion. Let me just give you contextual facts. There are people that will tell you that black on black. Yeah, I've listened to Lupe, of course. So if you look talking about black on black, right? If you're talking about black on black crime, it's not. I mean, it's a reality, and it's not at the same time. What do I mean? The reality is, yes, black people kill black people, but also if you compare it to white people killing white people, these are all social constructs, right? White people who live near each other commit crime on each other. Spanish people or Hispanic people or Latino people, etc. If they commit crime, right? If they live near each other, they'll usually commit crime on each other. Um, if you have people who are of Asian persuasion that live near each other, if you have people that commit crime, they'll usually commit crime on each other. So I don't really have much to deal with as far as black on black crime. Now, do I believe that it's okay, therefore, for black people to kill black people because they live in close proximity to each other? Of course not. Right? Of course not. And we should make sure that we change things, because a lot of crime has to just do with domestic issue. Spiritual battles, of course, sure, but it's domestic issues. So Malcolm X once said it like this. Minister Malcolm Shabazz, he once said it like this: if you have a poor child, he probably comes from a poor house. If he comes from a poor house, then he probably comes from from poor parents. If he comes from a poor parent, he probably has a poor family. If he has a poor family, he probably lives in a poor community. If he lives in a poor community, he probably eats poorly. If he eats poorly, that means he probably goes to a poor school. So if he goes to a poor school, then he probably has a poor education. If it's a poor education, he'll have a poor job. If it's a poor job, he'll probably have a poor wife. If he has a poor wife, they'll probably have a poor child who will continue to keep up that same thing over and over and over again. right? And I believe about that about the person in the bad trailer park, because not all trailer parks are bad, but the bad trailer park. I believe that about the person in the hood and not the neighborhood. I believe about the person in the ghetto, right? Even though we don't really live in ghettos, but they do kind of treat you like concentration camps, but not on the same level. So we got to be careful about our word usage. But that's who want to say they live in the ghetto, those who say they lived in the country, those that lived wherever. If you come from poverty of mind, you're going to come from poverty of a lot of different things. You're going to come from poverty of education, poverty of knowing yourself, poverty of love. Poverty, if you've never been told I love you, you're probably not going to tell somebody else I love you. If you were abused, you're probably going to think that the abuse that you got with the belt, you're probably going to laugh about it with your friends, and you're probably going to abuse your child. So somebody tells me black on black crime, contextual facts tell us that it's not a real thing like that. Right now, if there's a lot of people that are dealing with something, then we got to talk about what they're dealing with. Because you know who hates crime just as much as everybody else? Black people. No, thank you, Rodolfo. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do is break the cycle. Like black people don't like crime. Black people don't like black on black crime. Guess what? The criminal doesn't like crime. If the criminal gets robbed by another criminal, right? If there's somebody selling dope and somebody else robs the person of the money they made selling dope, the dope dealer don't like it. He might not be allowed to go tell the police because of that the G code, but he don't like crime. you know, it's just as weird. It's this weird thing where it's like black people commit crime, therefore they must love crime. No, like certain people commit crime, and it's a very small percentage, right? Like I don't think people know this. Like less than 0.5% of the country are black people who have even been to court, let alone people who are not, or black people who are going to court, let alone black people who commit crime. Like less than 0.5% of the country is black people who committed crime. You know what else though is less than 0.5% of the country? Less than 0.5% of the wealth in this country is owned by black people as well. Now, if we be honest about that point and realize that that was the statistic in 1865, that's when y'all say slavery ended, even though 13th Amendment just said they have to arrest you first to make you a chattel slave. But y'all think that slavery ended 1865. Some of y'all think it ended 1862 with the Emancipation Proclamation. That ain't true either, because then you wouldn't have needed what was said in 1865 and then what was said later on in 1868, 14th Amendment. However, y'all that think that the slavery and everything ended, everything just got better at 1865, less than 0.5% of the wealth of America was owned by black people in 1865. It's still in 2022 less than 0.5%. So let's go 1965. So 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015, and then we got to add on 7 years. So 157 years after you say slavery ended and everything was equal, and everything was equal across the board, black people still only have half of 1%, less than 0.5%, less than 0.5% of the wealth in America. Yeah, my wife said just because something becomes illegal at a certain time doesn't mean it stops. And by the way, we have proof of that. We have evidence. We know that in the South, there were still plantations where black people were slaves in the 60s and 70s. Like we actually have testimony from the people who were alive as slaves in the 60s and 70s in the South in the 1900s. We know that there's people who were freed from plantations in Georgia in 2022. What was it, January of this year? This year, 2022, they had to free slaves off a plantation. So people keep telling you this is ancient history and won't admit to you that this stuff is still going on. By the way, even if it's not chattel slavery on the plantation, there's still people that pick cotton in prisons. There's still people that make, like, the reason why some of y'all, when y'all go, like when you go, if some of y'all work for fast food establishments, or you go on airplanes and you lay on those pillows, or you're looking at certain things, there's a lot of things you guys touch. Some of the shoes that you're wearing, you don't realize that they're made in prison for slave labor. So that's why the shoe doesn't cost but like $2 to make, because the person getting paid, it don't cost them that much, right? It don't cost that much. They pay the person at the most, a lot of places, what, 30 something cent a day. You said then don't go to prison. Yeah, that's great. Problem with that is though, is that if you look at it, like for example, there's a guy in New York, Scala something. I can't remember his last name. SCALL something. He's had 200 people that he's put in prison that are being tried against, and they're going against because they realized that already 50 cases that were first presented to him, 20 out of the 50 almost automatically were wiped out and those people were let out of prison because he falsely put them in there. Right? But your whole thing is don't go to prison. But a lot of people have been falsely put in prison. And when you get in there, you have to become a slave. If you don't, they put you in the hole. So yeah, don't go to prison sounds great for somebody such as yourself. And you're just like, well, I never put myself in the wrong position. I mean, well, some of these people in the wrong position was they fit the description. You said, but more deserve to be there. I'm not saying nobody deserves. First of all, I don't have heaven or hills to put anybody in. And for me to say that I'm going to put somebody in prison to be a slave so that they can make your Nikes, I don't think that I'm in a position to do that. You might not. You might think different though. And if you do, that's fine. That's your culture that you want to uphold. And my culture, I don't think that I have the right to be able to say that I'm going to put somebody in there to be a slave for me. I just don't. And we can disagree we can agree to disagree. It's fine. If that's what you put up in here, I would just ask that you be respectful when you say it, but that's not for me to say. That's for you. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Clarissa. Thanks. And thanks for giving a shout out to the Honorable Alma. I know she appreciates that as well. Yeah, prison's a private business, for sure. Right, and that's what it is. It's a private corporation. And by the way, if you love prison so much, then maybe you should make sure that you start talking to the wardens and the owners of the prisons, because you know that these prisons, they sign contracts with the state. That's why they have to make sure they arrest a certain amount of people, and so they go to certain places. They go to places where they know that there's poor white people. They go to places where they know that there's poor black people. They go to places where they know that there's LGBTQ plus people. They go to people that are the minority, right? Or considered to be the minority, people that don't matter. And they go and they arrest those people to fill up prisons, to hit the quota that they tell you doesn't exist, but they have contracts. You can go and look that there's contracts with the prisons, right? There's contracts with the prisons, and there's contracts with the prisons and with the what is it that we're saying? There's contracts with between the prison and the state. And the prison says if we don't get 96% full, 97% full, some of them at 99% full. If we don't get this much full by this time of month, you have to pay us, which means that either they got to pay you, they got to pay in tax money. So they got to give some kind of something. So they got to pay in either taxes as money, or they got to pay in people as money. So when you say, oh yeah, just don't end up in prison, somebody could just be a victim of quota. We need to go ahead and meet this criteria. You know how I know this? Because if somebody on the street, right? Let's say we're in the state of Mississippi, right? From Oklahoma. Okay, how you doing? How you doing, Ali? So let's say you were in Oklahoma. Oh man, well, if you want to learn more about the cultures and values, we got a whole thing talking about having been led as we believe on YouTube. You can look by clicking on the link tree on here on TikTok, and just click on hashtag Find Kofi. That's our YouTube channel. But let's say I was in Mississippi, right? Let's say I was in Mississippi State, the state of Mississippi, right? Mississippi State could be a college. Okay. So let's say I was in the state or the country of Mississippi, because legally every state is a country. But let's just keep it simple to what people are aware of. Let's say I was in the state of Mississippi. All right. If I'm in the state of Mississippi and I, as a black man, were to steal a couple $100, or they were to say I took extra money because I needed help on food, I'm long-winded. Okay, sleeping. If I'm putting you to sleep, then go to another village. But thank you for being on, if that's your way of saying hello. So let's say that I was in another and I was in the state of Mississippi, and I took $200 extra. Like, let's say, because I've never been on government assistance, but let's just say here I was on government assistance, and I needed, and I was getting $600 a month, and all of a sudden by accident I got $800, and I didn't report it. Do you know that they would take the extra money out of my account the next time, and probably would just go ahead and put me in prison? Okay. And you would say that's well deserved, because I'm stealing from the people, I'm stealing from tax money, I'm stealing from the government. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, what about the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, though? Same state. See, I'm coming out of this dark ages thing that y'all got us, and y'all in the dark ages because y'all still aren't seeing. Y'all don't see color. Y'all don't see law. Y'all don't see position. You don't see classism. You don't see anything, right? But I'm out of that. I can see, right? From the position I'm in. Let's say that I'm the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase, and I live in Mississippi, and I'm part of stealing millions of dollars. You were muted probably because you were rude. I didn't mute you, but we have people that are on here to make sure that they keep this a nice spot for people to be able to have a safe space to talk. So you're probably muted because of being rude and not just treating people like human beings. But let's say I was in the state of Mississippi, and in the state of Mississippi, I took $200. I go to prison. $1 million Ted DiBiase, right? Whatever his real name is, I don't know. But let's say he takes millions of dollars. Is he in prison right now? No, you can have an opinion, right? Be opinionated without being, mean to others. Treat people as human beings. You don't have to agree with anything I say. I don't use opinion. I use contextual facts, but you can have whatever opinion you want. Yeah, the wrestler, Ted DiBiase in Mississippi. What happened? Right? He stole millions with the help of the governor. Is the governor in prison, by the way? Or the ex-governor? Is he in prison? Nope. Is $1 million man Ted B? Okay, you disagreed, and I agree to disagree with your disagreement. All right. If you want to be around, then be around. If not, you don't have to be. Thank you so much for being on. Right? Who else? Brett Favre. Brett Favre stole millions, took some of it and gave it to his child's school, nepotism, so that they could have a better stadium to be able to play their volleyball in. You see what I'm saying? Like, but he's not in jail. Where's the crime for him to make sure that he's in jail? But if I was in Mississippi and I needed some state assistance and I got $200 extra, I could possibly be in prison. You said that's like saying because someone gets away with the crime, I should be able to get away with it too. No, it's not like saying that. I'm saying if I shouldn't be able to get away with the crime, then neither should they. Why is your whole thing? See what I'm saying? Your whole thing is to be like, I'm going to disprove what you're saying. Like, if you don't like what I'm saying, that's cool, but you're not going to twist my words. I haven't once said, see, I should be allowed to be free. I'm saying that if I shouldn't be able to steal 200, they shouldn't be able to steal 5 million. That's not an opinion. That's according to your law, your structure, your belief system, your culture. It says that they should be locked up. Watch this. Let's take it out of white and black, because you think that I'm only talking about white and black. I'm talking about classism here, right? But you think I'm talking about racism. So let's go ahead and look at this. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? How about we do this? If I were to walk down the street and somebody said something about my wife, and I didn't like what they said, so I slapped them in the mouth, right? If the public saw it, which means the police saw it, if all these people saw it, it was on, and it was on YouTube, it was on World Star, right? Ancient reference, I know. If it was on all these different places, then somebody should be able to say, and thank y'all for the love, somebody should be able to say, hey, you know what? Lock him up. Is Will Smith locked up? Well, Chris Rock, he didn't press charges. You telling me police officers didn't see that? It's not about it. They don't. If I were to slap somebody in the middle of the street and a police officer said it, they wouldn't be like, hey, you want to press charges? Okay. So it's not about just black and white. See, that's the problem, is even with the social construct of black, like you think that Will Smith is the same black that you are, or the same black that I am, right? People who like Will Smith, they won't treat Will Smith the way that they do LeBron James. LeBron James makes way more money, but you'll spray paint the N-word. You'll spray paint the N-word on his house. You said it's not racist, it's all race. Well, I mean, you tell that to the people in the Ku Klux Klansmen. You tell that to the Ku Klux Klansmen. You tell that to, the people who are alt-right. You let them know that. You tell that to some black folk. I mean, heck, Idi Amin is a great example. He studied Hitler so that he could kill all black folk. But once again, I'm out of that dark age of thought. I'm out of that dark age, out of that confusion. See, the dark ages for us started when we stopped admitting the truth. See, you in the middle of, you think that technology, the creation of technology means that that's a demand that we're not in dark ages. I'm here to tell you that you can have a lot of technology and still be in the dark ages. It's time to come out. I'm not saying that you're disagreeing. I'm sorry if that came off as disagreement. I'm reading a bunch of comments. I'm not even sure if I responded to yours. If I did, then I apologize. But I'm just trying to say in general, like, we think we're in the dark ages and we're not. And I'm sorry, like I said earlier too, I also have back pain today. So I am a little irritated, right? I am a little irritated, so I apologize. But I'm just trying to say there's a group of people who are, and I appreciate that, right? Same to you. There's a group of people though that are have never really been represented as far as their culture. Yeah, the dark ages is a thought process, and we've been in the dark about ourselves. And now, as we become enlightened, we go from darkness to light, and we're getting through this first day, this first period of time. So we just in the first period of time. We haven't even started separating the waters from the waters yet. We haven't even started making sure that we start to separate things so we can see things that are righteous and things that are not, things that are above us and things that are beneath us. We don't even have our own standards. How can you understand? That's why so many of us are trying to overstand, because you don't have a standard that you feel comfortable being under. So your husband says something, and society has been telling you that your black man ain't shh, and you've been out here listening to other sisters and other brothers even now saying that black men ain't shh, and so now you can't listen to a direction even if it comes from the Most High. And you've been out here listening to how they say that your wife and these sisters out here, and hearing from other brothers that they ain't shh, and so now she trying to lay down law based off of direction from you, but you can't even get it. You say that when she lays down the law, she's arguing with you, but the reality is she's trying to go off of your direction. I am Avra, which is Hebrew. I am Yasrael, which is an Israelite. So sure, if that I don't know what that puts me in as far as what your thought process is and what we all are. I don't know if you yourself are in some kind of position as one or whatever, but yeah, I guess you could say that. You know, you said I'm not one. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. Okay, it doesn't matter what you. Like I said, I'm not here to worry about what people proclaim over you, because I'm out of those dark ages where other people who have no clue about you, who have no clue what it means when I say I'm shwi, right? Because if you know what shwi is, then you already know that I am what I say I am. Even if you want to go off the modern definition of an Israelite, they might say I'm only beta Israel, but they'll still say that I'm Israel. But you don't know who I am. And that's why part of coming out of the dark ages is you have to proclaim yourself. This is going to end up becoming a mini series. I could already see it. I wasn't really trying to do this, but I can see us literally trying to talk about how to come out is a problem for people. You see this? The whole goal is to talk about coming out of the system. And yet people who see we're trying to come out of the system, they big mad. You big mad because I'm telling you about how to come out. If I told you, hey, keep staying in the system, keep having that 9 to 5, keep making sure that you feel depressed, keep not living around your own people, keep making sure that you don't, keep making sure that you celebrate Christmas and Kwanzaa, and because even Kwanzaa ain't ours even really, right? I know where it was made up. I know it was made up by a black guy, but he was making it up because he felt we didn't have anything, and he made up a bunch of stuff from a bunch of cultures, but it's not real. Like, it's the same thing as what they did with Santa Claus. It's not real. Right? Like, you're doing all these things. So I say, come back to yourself, learn of yourself, grow within yourself, learn from yourself. It's okay for us to be able to declare our story and not have to make sure that it's defined by his story. And people come on here, oh, I'm tired of this. I can see by the shirt that you're wearing. Somebody said that today. I can see by the shirt that you're wearing. I already knew that this was going to be BS. Palm supremacy. I haven't heard that one. Right? Like we're having all this conversation about things that doesn't have to do with us. Before we even get to deeper into this stuff, you got to be able to come out and look at this stuff from another position, right? Like, you have to be able to look at this from another position. If you're still in the system, you can't look at it from the right position, right? And for the Asher, yeah, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, because it's not really how you should pronounce it in Hebrew. But Asher, yeah, Asher, or I think it's actually supposed to be yeah, Asher, yeah, or something like that. But it's a modification of somebody saying something that's not correct. If you want to look for the name of Yah, you don't look in Exodus 3:14, you look in Exodus 3:15. And whenever you see the Lord God means Yahweh Elohim, which means that he said his name is Yahweh. The word that they're trying to do is ahayach or hayach, and that doesn't mean I am. It just basically means it is what it is. And so he was saying, hey, you came here. Remember, Moses asked him what his name is. He said, look, it is what it is. Hayach. It is what it is. Like, you came here, you saw the bush that was burning. I'm a bush that burns, is not consumed. You came on holy ground. This is what it is. So he said, go tell them that what you've seen sent you. He said, moreover, though, verse 15, my name is the Lord God, or in Hebrew, Yahweh Elohim, right? And he says that was what I was known by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he also says that should be a monument unto me, or anybody that follows me. That should be my name, should be a monument for them forever. So he didn't even say I am that I am. That's somebody else's culture. Somebody took poetic license with your culture and said, we're going to change your Elohim to match our God or our deist or our deity or our comprehension of nectars, etc. But see, you got to come out the dark ages. We are in an age of confusion. That's what a dark age is. It's an age of confusion, right? It's an age of confusion, an age of darkness, an age of not being able to see. And we have the blind leading the blind. Not you personally. I'm just saying we have the blind leading the blind, because if I can't see as well as I'm trained and stuff like that, even somebody who's blind, even with somebody who has echolocation, right? There's blind people that actually can do echolocation, right? At some point, they're still their lack of sight hinders them. How you doing, Nappy Headed Insight? Like the name? You said I'm out. I don't want anything like it. I want more from this. Oh yeah, amen. Thank you, Sister Lisa. Yeah, and that's what a lot of us want. Amen, Sister Austria. Mitchell said the system is so really. I've recently started realizing there's more than life to work. Yeah, and by the way, that's for a lot of us. And thank you for saying what you said about the shirt earlier. But that's where a lot of us used to put so much into our job. Our job is who we are, right? Our job. I remember taking work home and sitting there literally with piles of stuff, whether it was in the military, out of the military, whatever, in sales, whatever. Like, I remember having piles of stuff and not even being able to complete it because it was just too much. And there's more to life than that, right? There's way more to life to that. Yeah, millions on the welfare system. Now check this out. And even if you're somebody who says, "Oh, see, all those black people, they're on welfare," this. Even if you're somebody that speaks that, then you know what the best way that we can handle that is if you let us handle that. But you won't. Like, the best way you could deal with if there's so much crime and black on black crime. The best way to deal with that, instead of saying, "Black man, y'all killing yourselves, stop talking about that." Let us handle that. The easiest way you could do that, just give us some land and let us do what we do, and let us have the ability to govern ourselves, to put certain people in order and stuff like that. Problem with it is, though, if we be honest, we have to govern ourselves. Right? Problem with that is that first and foremost, I can't have people who are on here who are arguing and won't make the main thing the main thing. And I have people who still have a mindset to kill each other. So I got to start with like-minded people first who will govern themselves. And then once we get that together, we've already got the order and structure to where now, okay, let's take a few more and let's teach them. And this is why it's going to have to be generational. You said it's funny how segregation has come full circle. Well, I didn't say that only black folk could be on the land. And I didn't say that we never could deal with white people. I just said, give us some land to where we can live. Now, if that becomes for somebody to say that it's got to be segregation, then that's on you, because that's right. Like, but I didn't say segregation. But I do believe that like-minded people should live together. You said give land. Why? No, we're going to purchase land, and then we're going to make sure that it's our own. But I'm saying the easiest way to do that is to make sure that people who would want to take care of the diaspora, like, give them the opportunity to, and let them figure out who the like-minded people are within themselves. But what others are saying is, no, we have to govern you. And so, okay, fine, you're governing us. Like, you're the police officers that are in Southside Chicago. You're the police officers that are in LA. You're the police officers that are in New York City. You are the police officers that are in Miami. And by the way, don't say, well, there's black police officers too. Yeah, they work for the same system. So you got your system people who have the same systemic thought process and put the same stuff in on purpose systematically. And you keep telling us that we need to listen to you to get it together. But we've been listening to you, even by force. You said you'll say it's segregation. That's fine. I won't. Right. I'm not trying to segregate to where no white person can live with us. Right. But I do need black folk to have some unity. If you want to call us black, Moorish, Cushitic, Kemetic, Israel, whatever term you want to use, we got to make sure that we have some things. You said they gave the Jews land. Well, yeah, they gave the Jews your land. You don't realize the Palestinians are your cousins. Right now, we're Israelites. We're Hebrews. So Hebrews are different than Jews. Jews come from. That's why they say Semitic. They won't ever say Shemitic because they're not of Shem. Right? You can't be Ashkenazi and Khazarian and then sit there talking about that you're Shemitic if you are in fact by definition according to your Torah. According to your Torah, but it doesn't mean that you can't even. It doesn't mean every Jew's a bad person either. But like I'm saying, is that at the end of the day, we should make sure that we take care of our own families. Like I have a family. I have to take care of them. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say we're trying to hunt others. So I guess the lion and cheetah thing is, I get the comparison, but I get what you're saying, right? Like lions and cheetahs, they don't live together except in captivity. Right. But a lion and cheetah can pass each other and things can be okay. Right. But I think that's a little much because we're not animals either. We're the same species, even if some people want to act like they don't act like, whichever side you want to say don't act like we're the same species. We're going to a little much on that, and so I'm gonna be careful, But let me say from even a mental aspect, right? Like eagles don't act like turtles. If you don't like that, eagles don't act like pigeons. If you don't like that, eagles don't act like chickens. You know what I'm saying? Like you hear what I'm saying? That's what we're, that's what we're really dealing with. Like eagles don't act like. They don't. Like eagles and turtles don't really have much in common. They're not going to try to, have long conversations. You said, was this called segregation for the indigenous Americans? Um, I don't know what it was called. I guess, yeah, you could say it was segregation. I'm indigenous myself. A lot of us are indigenous. Yeah, and they don't want us to think about coming together, So, but first things first, like it's just reality, right? Like, how do you come out of an age of confusion? Well, first and foremost, why are your children going to places where they don't learn about themselves? They're confused about themselves. They're confused about their culture. Is your child going to learn about Mansa Musa? Is your child going to learn about Ghana? Not modern Ghana, which would be nice. I'm talking about even ancient Ghana. Why? Does your child know why modern Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah and his crew, decided to call themselves Ghana based off of ancient Ghana? Right? So we are all spirits in the physical vessel. Spirits, family will recognize and know each other regardless. That's very true, right? And that's why I make it a point on here. Like if you listen long enough, you'll be very clear. You'll hear very clearly. This is why when somebody said, "Are you a Hebrew Israelite?" Blah blah. I was like, whatever box you want to put me in, go ahead. With no offense to that person, but I was making a point. Like you'll never hear me say that because somebody's white that they can't believe in what I believe in, right? But we gotta believe in what we believe in. Even Malcolm X, towards the end of his life, people act like Malcolm X was killed because, of his stance against white people. Malcolm X was killed when he said that he was open to working with other people. How you doing, Minister Lex Shante? Right? Like that's when he was killed. When said they have separated, or they want us separated. When we unite, we have the control, not them. That's very true as well. Right? But they want us separated. And they want us to remain separated. And we have to go into this place of being okay, like, when will we come together? Main thing. And first things first that you got to come together is mentally, is spiritually, is emotionally, right? And even physically. Right? Like we can't even come together on what we should and shouldn't eat. Now you think this doesn't matter, but in other cultures, there's things they should and shouldn't eat. And everything they lined up. You can be mad at your enemy, but your enemy comprehends and understands generational wealth. Like if your enemy went to a certain high school and they become rich, they're going to make sure that they go back to that high school and make sure they remain rich. It's not a conversation about it, right? In your system, though, you raise up and you get money and that money don't go back. and you move away. In their system, they'll be like, okay, I might get a house somewhere, but I'll get a house where I am, and I'll fix up that house, and I'll get a business where I am, and I'll hire people that look like me from the business and stuff. And by the way, I'm not saying that you should only hire people that look like you, but hear what I'm saying. People do that. Then when you do it and you put like when you it's so amazing to me. If you go by places, if people see black owned on the side of a business, they start flipping out. But what's wrong with that? They're saying it's black owned. Well, you don't have to say it's black owned. I mean, I guess, but if you knew it was or wasn't, like, what does it matter? If it doesn't matter, then just because you see it's black owned, what do you? You know why they put black owned on there? They put black owned on there because they're hoping they'll get support from people that look like them. Because a lot of people don't support black owned stuff on purpose. And a lot of times they have to go through a lot of different things. So they started putting black owned on there because of that. If you don't believe that, all you got to do is look back at history. Some of y'all might have heard of this before, but maybe you've heard something called the Chitlin Circuit, right? Well, if you want to do that, that's great. I'm just saying a lot of people like have a problem with it. It becomes argumentative. You can look up the arguments about it online, right? Um, but you can look back to what they call the Chitlin Circuit. What is the Chitlin Circuit? Chitlin Circuit was where all your stars, Jimi Hendrix, later on, Tyler Perry, a lot of people that you know of, they have to go through the Chitlin Circuit. James Brown would have had to go through it. They go through this place where it's called the Chitlin Circuit, where black folk come and support people. Right. And so they had to go through that, prove themselves there. And then if they made enough money there, eventually white people would come look at them on the Chitlin Circuit and then go ahead and put them up and start letting them make money, the real money where the white people were going to be given. Right. That's something that's real. A lot of people don't know, and that same Chitlin Circuit wasn't called it back then, but black people used to wear blackface. Black people wore blackface. You said nobody cares that it's black owned. More people would support it than not. When are you gonna lose? The victim mentality. It was only a matter of time. Watch this. So there are a lot. So you're telling me that nobody has a problem at all, right? Victim mentality. Do you know what a victim is? Do you know what a victor is? Do you know that you can't have a victim without a victor by definition? Oh, somebody blocked them already, right? But it's crazy. You can't have a victim. You can't be a victim without a victor. You can't be a victor without a victim. So if you're victorious, you must have somebody you victimized by definition. Easiest proof. See, we don't understand we're Roman antics. We keep up with Roman antics. You're romantic. So let me help you explain the culture that you don't know. When have anybody ever been to a parade? If you ever been to a parade, I've marched in many. I've looked at many. I've danced on the side of many, etc. I've watched many on television when I was younger. Now that I know what a parade is, I don't anymore. But you ready? You ready? A parade comes from romantic times when Rome was a world power, and they had what was called a triumph. The triumph came because Rome had sent whoever their I'm forgetting the title. You had two of them. They didn't have kings, at least not at that point. Consults, something like that. I'm getting off on the word, but something like that. You had two of them, and they would be in charge, and then you'd have other people that would get sent other places. Sometimes the consult themselves would go other places, and they would conquer another group of people. And usually they would kill them off and take their land, or they would make sure that they had to bow down to them, take some slaves with them or whatever. But they would keep getting a bunch of land to make sure that Rome expanded. As Rome expanded, the consul only had so much time before they had to basically come back. You could only be consul for a year. Then they had to vote other families of the rich families in to be able to become the new consuls. And so everybody wanted to get their glory before they had to go ahead and leave out. So they would go ahead, they would make victims out of people that would become victorious. Then they would bring the slaves back. They would bring the head of state back. If they didn't want to be a puppet, they would bring that head of state back, or that emperor, or that king, queen, etc. Right? They'd bring them back, and they would ask if they could have a triumph. They couldn't bring the army in yet. They couldn't bring the slaves in, but they asked if they have a triumph. The Senate would come together and have a vote. Right? And when the Senate would have a vote, they would vote to see what? They would vote to see, can we give this person a triumph? Because if that person was a triumph, they would be treated like a king for the whole day. They didn't have emperors yet, right? So since they didn't have emperors yet, they only could wear a slice of purple across them. On their toga, you would just see a strip of purple somewhere. Why? Because kings wore purple. So they believed that there weren't kings, and all the Senate, all the families, they were the kings and queens, right, of everybody else. So Basically, you had somebody had to ask permission to be a triumph, to be treated like a king for a day, and to be able to allow the armies, because the army couldn't come into Rome. The army had to be dissipated before they can come into Rome. I forget what the line is called, but it was something line that they had. Once they crossed that line, you couldn't have an army together. If you did, then they thought that you were coming for civil war. So they would ask permission from the Senate. The Senate would give them permission. Then you would have a triumph. They would make sure all the streets and all of Rome were ready to go. They would make sure they had places where you can go ahead and eat and have sex and do all this stuff and just party for the whole day. And the triumph, the person who wanted to, the consul who wanted to make sure that they brought this back. Oh wow, thank you. I've never seen that one before. Thanks for the love. They wanted to make sure. Excuse me, sorry. They wanted to make sure that things were in order. So they were like, okay, cool. Give us some time, and they would do what now you call floats and stuff like that. They would make sure that and balloons and stuff, they would make sure that they had little parade floats, and they would have big tapestries that they would either weave or paint some things out to make it look like what it was, and they would retell the story so that they were able to do what? To the victor goes the spoils. They were able to give his story rather than the story, and they would always make the people look like they were barbarians and always make themselves look to be like they were in a positive light. Matter of fact, Julius Caesar got in trouble for this a couple times because on some of the triumphs, it was during Civil War. So he forced them to have a triumph for him. And he actually showed the people that he killed off that were Roman. He showed this himself, right? He showed him killing off his own people. And people were like horrified by it. Like, we're okay if you did it to other people, but don't do it to us, right? You can have a triumph over them. You can be a victor over them, but don't be victorious over us, because that means you've made us victims. So then they would have the parade and they would show the triumph, right? And that's why in your parade, you always have armies. Don't you have the Army band, you have the Navy band, you have the Air Force band, you got somebody out there that's marching, don't you? If they don't have them, they got some kind of marching band, because you have music playing, they have some kind of art, or they have some kind of float, or they have somebody who's sitting up there dressed as something that they're not, because you're supposed to appease the gods and all that, or the deists, the deities, right? And then you have what? Then you have a bunch of people who come by and they're waving. See, nowadays you don't think anything of it, but those people wouldn't have been waving. They would have basically been slaves being marched through the streets, having things thrown at them and having people laughing at them because they were the victors, but they were throwing fruit and vegetables at the victims. And then lastly, at the end, would be the person that you were paraded, who was the former head of state or the former king or whatever, and they were being paraded. And then once they got in front of the big stand, you know how like there'll be a stand that everybody's at, and sometimes they'll stand up, and the person stands up and either salutes or does something, or puts their hand over their heart, or does whatever, and some special performance is done. That was when, okay, thank you, the Rubicon River, exactly. Thank you. I couldn't remember what that line was exactly. You're exactly right, right? And I think at one point it extended somewhere else, but for the most part, yeah, that Rubicon, that was it, right? I'm pretty sure you're right. Okay, so. But so then they took the whole thing, paraded down, they went through the street, and then they brought in front, and the same way they did at the gladiatorial games. We don't know if thumbs up and thumbs down minute. We don't know if it was thumbs to the side. We don't know if it's thumb in, thumb out. We know that they did something with their thumbs. And the people got to do something as well. They would put this person in front after this whole parade, and the people got to decide, did the head of state get to live or die? If they got to live, they lived as a prisoner, and they lived pretty decent lives. You know, they wouldn't live because of classism. They wouldn't live like everybody else did, but they wouldn't be able to leave whatever land they were given. They had to stay in a specific place, and that was it. Or if they were told that they were going to die, they got killed right there in front of everybody. That's a parade. That's a triumph. That's what you do. That's what victors do. The victorious get parade the victims. So you can't have a victor without a victim. Right? You know, if you didn't have a victor, you wouldn't have a victim. So when people say, oh, you got a victim mentality, then you got to look for who the victor is. If you think that you're the victor, then you got to start figuring out why you're a victor and why other people aren't. Everybody can't be victors when it comes to Roman mindset. You either got to be a victor or a victim. See, in a Roman mindset, victims are people that deserve to be conquered. That's why in the Bible, see, read your Bible, it'll bless you. We say that all the time. In your Bible, there's something in Revelation chapter 2 pops up twice. This word is called Nicolaitan. Nicolaitan, it tells you twice that the Most High doesn't even want to hear about Nicolaitan. You think that Nicolaitan is just a people, right? Nicolaitan is two words put together, Nikos, laity. If you go to a church and there's lay people there, then you don't want to be part of that church. What is that? So what's the other part of the word? Laity at the end means people that deserve to be conquered. What does Nikos mean? Nikos means that we are what? Nikos actually means we are conquerors. So Nicolaitan literally means there's a doctrine out there that says that certain people should be the conquerors, the victors, and certain people should be conquered. They are the victims. So when you're out here talking about victor versus victim mentality, you don't even recognize what you're talking about. That's somebody else's culture. And they're cool with that. They parade that around. That's very romantic. It's very Greco-Roman. That you make victims out of people. You kill off their head of state. You take their story and mix and match, right? That's why you have Alexandria all over the place. I went to high school in Alexandria, Virginia, right? The greatest library, that at least what we're told, the greatest library. I mean, if you go to further down in the African continent, you'll find better libraries. But we act like the only library that really existed that was great was the Alexandrian Library. Who was that named after? Alexander the Great. You know how many Alexanders are all over the place? And he would put himself there. He put statues of himself next to their Netchers or their Onyankopones or their Gianyames or their Elohims or their gods or their deists or their deities, etc. He would put himself and interject himself in that story. Why did he do that? He did that because he wanted people to recognize that he was on the same level as their gods. He was changing the story. He was saying that I'm the victor because I'm a god, because I'm a deity. I'm the victor. You said Africa, the greatest continent, at one point had the greatest victors and victims. I mean, if you want to go there, that's fine. Making anybody a victim is bad, no matter where they are. You just don't, we might not like the names that are being used, but at the end of the day, like anybody who's making victims, I don't need to be victorious. See, that's why it tells me I'm more than a conqueror. We talked about that one of the lines. I'm more than a conqueror. Maybe that's what we'll start tomorrow. I don't know. Somebody probably have to remind me, or maybe I can write it on. I'll write it on the board. Oh gosh, bent over too fast. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Right? We talked about this, but we'll go back into that because more than a conqueror, right? That means that conquerors are not on my level. If all you can do is conquer, then you got problems. I'm more than a conqueror. Like some people only look around. That's, by the way, the first two horsemen. That's all they do. The four horsemen. Go read Revelation chapter 6. All they do is conquer, 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 or they make money off of conquer, 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 or war. Right? I'm more than that. If that's all you got, I'm more than that. How do I view reincarnation? I don't have a problem with the word reincarnation. I just don't believe in what many people think when they say reincarnation. I believe, for example, Yashua was in the form of Elohim and found it not robbery to be incarnate as Yashua in the flesh. He died and went to hell, came back and was resurrected and was incarnate in another body. And then he went up into the heavens, and it says he's coming back. And when it describes him coming back, he's incarnate in another body again. But I do not believe that we're reincarnated over and over and over again. For example, I was incarnate in the spirit perfectly. And then through this, with the wickedness that happened with flesh with Adam, I've been reincarnated into some foolishness that's not the body I should have had. And therefore, when I die, to be absent from the body, my soul and spirit should be present with the Lord. And then I'll have a glorified body incarnate again. But I don't believe that I'm going to be reincarnated thousands of times. Right? But conquerors try to teach you that, like, it doesn't matter what you're incarnated as long as you're reincarnated in their image. I'm sorry, what'd you say? You said folks spout. They're happy to see systemic racism dismantled, but the minute they realize this is gonna, give up some of the privilege and playing field is level, a lot of people get upset. Yeah, you know. So like a lot of people get frustrated about it, but that's why I say I can't allow somebody else to try and take me. You said you're a victor. We have to use it in context. Well, I mean, if you want to use it in context, the context of a victor is you can't have a victor without victims. In order for you to be a victor, you got to have victims. Yashua is part of Elohim. He is Elohim, sure, right? I don't do Jesus. I don't do God. That's Germanic deity, and that's half man, half Zeus. You said it's not true? Okay. To each their own. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. I'm giving you a different cultural context. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. Still got love for you. But I'm not going to be a victor. I'm more than a conqueror. You conquer everybody and everything that you need to. I'm more than a conqueror. See, if I'm more than a conqueror, a sovereign doesn't worry about conquering. A sovereign just expands. See, the thing is, like, through a lot of the sovereigns, the worldly sovereigns, the kings, the queens, and all that stuff, the capitalists and all the stuff that people want to be like, they conquer or they expand by conquering, right? I'm more than a conqueror. My influence is just simply being over my environment. As being over my environment, I'm one that can be able to take over something without having to touch anybody. If I have to put my hands on somebody, it'll be a defense of my people, and definitely defense of my family, even more so than that. But however, I'm not in a position to where I'm worried about people trying to conquer me. People try to conquer me my whole life. I'm still here. I'm about to turn 40 October 6th. What is that? Thursday? Something? Is today October 1st? I think so. So what's that? Thursday or whatever? I'm blessed. Actually, hold on. Today's not October. Is today October 1st? No. I don't know. What is what is today? It's got to be, right? Is today October 1st? Somebody help me out. It is? Okay. But whatever it is, like I'm not concerned about those things. You can tell me whatever you want. It is? Okay, thank you. I'm paying attention as much as part of it. I gotta get today's a rough day for me. See? Okay. Gracias. Um, so these are the things that, but people try to put you in their will, right? Once again, I haven't muted anybody. I'm not muting anybody, right? So it's weird that people keep coming to me on that. I think she was on. I thought she was on today. I know she was on yesterday, and I sent her some stuff yesterday. I don't know, but people don't like it. People don't like it when you stand up for your culture, and when you stand up and say, "This is who I am," and when you stand up and say, "Oh, I know my story. I don't need his story to back it up." And when people say, "Well, no, you need to go to college. You need to go to college so you can get a degree of knowledge." I'm past that. I'm more than a conqueror. I don't need your degree of knowledge to say who I am. It's only a degree. Okay. Well, I can see why they did, even though I wouldn't necessarily say that you needed to be muted either. I think it was only for 5 seconds. So that's probably more like a warning, you know? But anyways, people don't like it. Like, I got to be able to do this, express, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, real talk, people don't like to hear that, hey, there's more than what your degree says. You only have a degree. There's 360 degrees. Why are you bragging to me because you got one of them? Right? Old ancient proverb. He that doesn't know that he doesn't know is a fool. Shun him. He that knows that he does not know is wise. I'm sorry, is teachable. Teach him. He that knows that he knows is wise. Follow him. One more again. He that does not know that he does not know is a fool. Shun him. He that knows that he does not know is teachable. Teach him. He that knows that he knows is wise. Follow him. Right? Now, I don't know everything, but what I know is what I know. Right? You can trust what I know, and I always say study what I tell you, because what I know is what I know. I promise you. If you go look the stuff up, I even give out a lot of sources. Sometimes I can't, because I can't remember every single thing I've ever read or looked at. I look at stuff all day, every day. I can't remember every single place I got every single thing from, right? But the things that I know, I know. If I don't know it, I'm open to suggestions, right? But that's why I don't even give opinions. If I were to give you opinion, if I were to opine, or even when I tell you stuff, I'll say so and so thinks this and that or whatever, but I can't tell you what I think. If I tell you what I think, I'm gonna mess you up, because what I think is not grounded in anything that's successful. Or even if it is grounded in something that's successful, it doesn't mean it's going to take deep root, until you realizing that deception is the only thing the system really has. Well, a lot of it is. But even in all that, like, it's deception. I like the word, because deception is what we're trying to bring out. We're not trying to say that there's no truth in anything you've ever heard. Deception means somebody gives you a truth, and then they build a lie. Even look at the legal definition. If you get a chance to look up Google legal definition of interpretation, and you will discover that interpretation means it has to be by a specific person in a specific language, dealing with a specific contract or whatever, will or whatever, or what the person what the person said, what did they mean at the time? Then read further. It'll give you some things you can look up to get further instruction in that, but keep on reading after that. It'll then tell you there's something called construction. Construction is where you get a lot of deceit. Construction is bigger than interpretation. Interpretation says it's got to be what that person meant. Construction means I took what that person meant and I built things on it. Now you got to figure out if what people built on is actually based off interpretation, or not even based off, if it is within interpretation or if it's based off of interpretation. Those are two different things, right? And a lot of us are arguing construction rather than interpretation. You said you just learned that Victor was in the word romantic, man. Yeah, like think about it. Romantic, Roman antics. Why do you like to go to a candlelit dinner? You say because it's romantic. Well, why did Romans eat under a candlelit dinner? Somebody will say, well, it's just because they didn't have electricity. No, no, no. Why you do with just one candle and you want it dark all over? Because a lot of people couldn't afford candles like that. Some of them even lived in caves. If you had a candle, you were doing big things. So if you could provide a candle for your wife, she was thankful that she could see what she was eating. That's culture. If I just introduce culture to you, you say, wow, okay. But for me, when I'm eating, I want to see my food. So I like it to be lit up. It was not really romantic to me because I'm not romantic. I'm not Roman. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I'm in Rome, I got to do what the Romans do to a certain extent, right? I give Caesar's things to Caesar's, but I give Elohim's things to him, right? I got to be in the system, the cosmos, in the world, in the system, but not of it. Glad you were able to make it, Julie. Thank you. Amen. My wife said, you got to see that food. That's real. You say Shaka was a victor? I'd actually give you that. Now, some of the stuff about Shaka comes from people that didn't like Shaka, didn't like the fact that Shaka's family was going to ultimately defeat the British before the British came with a whole bunch of cavalry and a whole bunch of extra soldiers, and then decided to beat the brakes off of the Zulu. But yeah, some of the stuff that they wrote about Shaka is true. And that's why I said anybody who's a victor is not somebody who's valuable. Anybody who's a slave owner is not somebody we need to back up. I don't care who it is. You know, there's a whole bunch of slaves that we didn't even talk about today. We don't have time because I got to get off here at 9:30 to make sure that Minister Select Sharon and Joseph are ready to go on the podcast. But real talk, we didn't even talk about, the sex slave trade. That's happening to people of all different types of color. We didn't talk about the fact that there are Muslims over in Libya, the place that they said that they liberated. There's Muslims over there right now, and in other countries over there too, that are right now involved in trading Africans. Yeah, Shaka was killed by his own, sure. By the way, that's how Shaka got in power, and that's how other people before Shaka got in power. So yeah, just because he's black doesn't mean that he's righteous in everything that he did. That's why we have never said that about him, and that's why you've never heard me say that. You see, you're taking it to another place. That ain't got nothing to do with what we're talking about now. But I get it. Like, once again, we're thinking in our minds, see, somebody's attacking the system. They're attacking this culture. So we got to defend the culture. Like, I'm never saying that that's something that should be there. It's like when people say, oh, wow, I was Asylum. What's up, brother? How you doing? Long time no talk to. But that's why I'll be the first person to tell somebody like, yo, not all skin folk is kinfolk. Not all, the Bible even says about Hebrews in Romans chapter 9, verse 6, not all Israel is Israel. Not everybody who says that they're, not everybody that says that they're like-minded is like-minded. Not everybody that says they believe in the Bible believes in the Bible. Not everybody that says that they're a great Muslim is a great Muslim. You said victor equals all races. That's according to the culture you want to upkeep, right? There can be victors, but nobody should be a victor. It should be our thing. But that's for other people to do, But that's why I say, even with that, it's interesting, though. Like, we're skipping over what I was saying earlier. Why aren't we talking about the fact that there are sex slaves right now? That you want to talk about victors? Some of these people that are walking around that we love to follow, whatever, like they're in Hollywood right now, treating little children like, like sex slaves and trading them. And then we make fun of a Corey Feldman when he got all that makeup and stuff on him when he gets earlier. But Corey Feldman is messed up. That dude is drugged up. Not just on, dope or something, or cocaine. That dude is drugged up on all types of over the counter drugs. Ain't nobody talking about that, right? We just skipped over that to be able to be like, see, victors of all races. Like, okay, I'm with you on that. Let's, like the stuff that we need to talk about, we skip over because we're trying to fight. And I just don't have, like, I don't have the ability. I realized I never did. I thought I did, but now I don't even feign the ability to be able to fight everybody's war, because guess what? Somebody can take care of that and I'll back you up. But right now, my people need some stuff, whether you like that or not. Now, people that are like-minded, we got you. And there's people who can stand up and speak for themselves. I'm not asking them to, but there's people, if you want to call them white, that are part of SOC, part of our organization. And we've done plenty for them to help them out and still talk to them and still guide them and still do all types of stuff and treat them like they're ours. One of which, I'm not gonna put her name up, but one of which, when we just visiting with some folk, played with my son, and there'll be a time that my son probably never forgets. Right. But I can't fight on every stage. So if you want to work together, we can come together and be like, hey, what are you fighting? What are you fighting? What are you fighting? But right now, I gotta get this diaspora thing together. I got to be like, hey, and that's not the whole diaspora. I can't get everybody, but those who are like-minded, who literally want to give towards the same thing, who are ready to come together. And look, today's October 1st. So our goal was to try and have land bought by October 1st. We're not in a position to do that. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop, though. We're getting closer, right? We're still raising funds. We're still doing a lot of different things, but yeah, people who are ready for that and really want to work towards that, and are really to be all in and really willing to see like stuff change for their children and things of that nature. Like, let's get it. But I can't fight for everybody. I've got too many. Like, I wish I could fight for all women's rights. I respect the right for all women to have women's rights, but there's too many of our sisters who keeps making sure that they are the most educated in the country, and yet are the least paid. Like, when you talk about that, there's no, how they say it's a myth and the wage gap is a myth. That's true to a certain extent, but now what you don't want to talk about is look at black women and compare that to white men, even compare it to black men for the same positions. We're not going to act like that doesn't exist. So if everybody's going to say that doesn't exist because of the wage gap, and see, we're just going to say just say women, don't say black women. Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and fight for the black women then. Right? That's where I'm at. The disenfranchised, the one that doesn't have the voice. I'll work for her to make sure that, we can help them out. You said women need to start fighting for yourselves. That's true. But why not fight for each other? Right? Like, sisters should, instead of sisters saying that black men, blah, blah, how about we fight together? Because we're supposed to be husband and wife in this thing. We're supposed to be the ankh, connected, right? The two arms, if you want to say fallopian tubes, you got the ovary, and then you got the phallus. We're supposed to be as one. That's the problem, is that women need to feel secure and need to be secure, but they're trying to secure themselves and trying to feel respect at the same time, because they try to do it by themselves. Men are trying to do it on their own now and trying to feel respect and saying that they don't feel secure. But the reality is that, brothers, when you get respect, you're supposed to secure what respects you. And sisters, when you feel secure, you're supposed to respect what secures you. And we should work together in that. And brothers, that means you should give her affection. And sisters, if that means sometimes you might have to have sex, because that's a big need for a man. But affection leads to sex for a woman, because you're not necessarily thinking about sex as far as, let's get it. But when you feel like you're treated a certain way affectionately, then that makes you get in the mood. Like, we're supposed to be doing this with each other, but we keep trying to do this by ourselves. At some point, like, yeah, I fight for that. So even people who are saying women should just take care of themselves, I mean, okay, sure, women should have an accountability for themselves, yes, but why not help our sisters? And yes, men should be able to fight for themselves, but why not have, and have accountability within ourselves? But why not have sisters that are there for their men? And we know that there's a lot of us that are, but I'm saying we should do it holistically, more and more. The masculine and feminine unite. My wife said, women are out of our nature these days. We're trying to act like men and losing, and losing, like, and men out here. I say this all the time. I end on this. We'll come back to this. I got on here. We'll come back to More Than a Conqueror tomorrow. So that's what we're gonna do tomorrow. And I'll try to even put. Well, I don't know. Somebody might have to remind me about the women and men thing. But here's the deal. And look, just pray about it, meditate on it, fast, do whatever you got to do. I really got to get off because I'm supposed to be talking to somebody at 9:35. So I got to get out of here. But last thing I'll say, like, think about this: in our wholeness and our holiness, etc., as a people. You got black men that have started acting like white women, and you got black women who have started acting like white men. And we're trying to figure out why it's not working for us. I'm going to say it one more time and then I'm out. We got black men who started acting like white women. We got black women who started acting like white men. And we're trying to figure this out. That's not our culture. We're arguing using everybody else's terms of what their fight is. They're fighting each other. And we're trying to fight each other based off of their terms, and neither one of us is in position to do so. And we never should have been because it's not our culture. Oh, yes, my wife is very brilliant. Thank you for saying so. Right? So I'm just saying, like my wife said, we're out of position. She said women are out of position. I would agree with her and say that men are out of position too. And we're both out here losing. That being said, thank you for being on. I appreciate you all. We got to get ready for the podcast. As far as the SOC meeting, I don't think I can do it. I need to rest. I need to lay down. I'm not feeling well at all. My wife had given me opportunity to be able to rest during the workout, and I wanted to get the workout in, and I had already messed up myself at the gym day before. I think it's just I need to sit down and rest. So I'm gonna lay down. I'll be around for the podcast to help out, but we look forward to Minister Select Joseph and Minister Select Sharon being there. Ministerial staff, I'm trying to get in touch with all of you, so you'll probably get a call at some point this weekend to be ready for October 5th. And we'll be doing something special for that, for the Day of Atonement. All of us will be involved. Thank you so much again to everybody for being on. We appreciate you all so much. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Alma, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And the tincture of the month is still I Am Rested. She has many different tinctures, of course, for you, but the tincture of the month is I Am Rested. So thank you for supporting her. And that's all that I have. We'll see you guys on the podcast soon. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, y'all should know that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of a Shabbat Shalom family. Take care. Peace be upon you. Thank you so much, and much respect to everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. And still praying for those of you that are in Florida. Hopefully everything's, going as well as it possibly can. All right. Peace.